Trouble at Transnet is costing the country. A cyber attack saw the entity declare a force majeure, halting operations. The state-owned ports and freight company says it's working on restoring its systems. The disruption started on Thursday, forcing Transnet to switch to manual systems. The company's told its customers the act of sabotage resulted in disruption of normal processes and functions. It's affected ports in Durban, the busiest in sub-Saharan Africa, as well as Cape Town. Well, Business Unity South Africa President Sipho Pitana joins us now live to discuss this further. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it. So, Transnet having declared a force majeure twice recently, the economy, of course, is suffering because of this.
Shihan, thank you very much, and thanks for inviting us to your program. Yes, this is unfortunate. But as you know, in this current environment of heavy reliance on technology, cybersecurity is one of, for most companies, one of the top 10, if not top 20, top 5 risks that we have to contend with. This is something that occurs, cyber attacks occurs on a regular basis. We're supposed to lift our defenses to make sure that we have appropriate measures in place. So what we've experienced of Transnet is what many businesses have to contend with. The important thing is to make sure that you have appropriate systems in place to get back on stream at the earliest opportunity.
Well, the question is whether Transnet has actually put enough effort into making sure that it has the proper systems in place to protect its information and security systems, because, you know, this, of course, is an entity that carries crucial information.
Well, even the best amongst us would have a difficulty in giving any guarantees about that. I can tell you that as sophisticated industries as IT industries are vulnerable to this, and they get disrupted from time to time. Financial services globally have to contend with this, and they get disrupted from time to time, and data gets stolen, personal information gets stolen. So it's the people who are involved in this kind of crime are quite sophisticated criminals, and they're able to break through the nets. And I'm not suggesting that Transnet systems are best, but I am saying that it would appear that these are often not foolproof and therefore are vulnerable to a breakthrough by sophisticated players. So in that context, what becomes important is whether we have the capacity to respond to these appropriately once our defenses would have been breached. And in this instance, the most important thing, of course, is to communicate to customers, which I must applaud Transnet has done so magnificently. They've been transparent, advised by a number of our business organizations that they have been in communication and advised, because then that enables your customers to come to terms with the limitations there, and that there may be difficulties in living up to contractual obligations, which they have now declared, which basically means that due to unforeseen circumstances, Transnet is not able to commit to its contractual obligation to its customers. And we're working with them, would like to work with them to make sure that we're back on stream as soon as possible, and we're pleased that it looks like that situation is getting resolved.
I'm glad they're speaking to businesses, because they're certainly not speaking to us at ENCA. We've been trying to get them for the past couple of days. But I want to talk a bit more about businesses that actually rely on goods being imported and exported. What's the impact been there?
Well, we've not measured what the impact has been. Of course, you're right. All of this adds to a whole range of other things that have been happening in the country. It's not quite clear that this is directly linked to the people that have been involved to some of the other disruptions that we've seen. But it has to be seen also in the context of this being a regular occurrence across the economy. And of course, it's particularly sensitive that it's happening at Transnet, because this is a key to our routes to global markets and our accessing goods from there. So from the point of view of our exports and imports, it's a very important infrastructure that has to be protected. So working with them, and we hope that things can be brought to speed as quickly as possible and as safely and securely as possible, drawing the lessons from what has happened today in the past few days.
You know, of course, declaring a force majeure can't be looking good in our CV as a country, especially to foreign investors. How do we reassure them?
Well, I think that most of us, as I was indicating, global companies included, are familiar with the fact of life of force majeure and arising particularly from instances of cyber attack. It says something about the standard of contracting that we have with our local and global customers, that you have provisions, and Transnet refers to its contractual arrangements with everybody else and refers to Section 11 of their, or Clause 11 of their contractual agreements, which specifically foresees that there may be a set of circumstances beyond their control that would see them not honor those contracts. So these are international conventions, and they are perfectly consistent with what happens in other parts of the world. So it's an unforeseen set of circumstances. It happens in many places, and I do want to say that we are not downplaying this, but we are nonetheless appreciative of the fact that this is what many of us experience in other parts of the world as we export. Sometimes we have difficulties getting beyond the ports and or getting our goods and services to the right destinations because of a whole set of circumstances. This is part of global trading arrangements. Our responsibility as business, we feel we have to work with Transnet to ensure that they get back on stream at the earliest opportunity.
Yeah, I get that, but of course this is the second time in recent weeks because of the unrest, but you also got to look at this in the point of view where jobs will be affected because of what's happening in Transnet. And ultimately it is the general man on the street, woman on the street who relies on these systems, this chain of employment that will also be affected here.
Well, I mean, the impact on jobs arising from this incident is not similar to what disruptions we saw with the looting and burning and disruption and destruction of property. Those will take a long time, some of them, to recover and get out of that. This is a temporary inconvenience for many. And of course, there may be people that are not able to be at work for a short period of time until the systems at the ports, and indeed, because this affects the freight aspect of the business, they may be affected too, but it's a temporary setback, and it can be that it's something that we're going to have to contend with over the next period of several weeks and months. So it is possible to bring this to a resolution at the earliest opportunity, but we are pleased that they are emphasizing the importance of ensuring that the return back to normality there would be done as safely as possible, and that will draw from the lessons of this situation.
Mr. Pityana, if you look at PRASA and Transnet, let's talk about the executive leadership as well as political leadership here. Because is it sufficient enough, or have we seen proper measures put in place to revive these entities, especially since we're seeing issues reoccur in recent times?
Well, with due respect, I wouldn't put PRASA and Transnet in the same basket. They are both state-owned entities. I'm particularly concerned about what's happening at PRASA. There isn't a clear sign that we have things under control there. We worry about the safety of commuters. We worry about the security of that infrastructure, which seems to be destroyed on a regular basis. We worry about leadership and all of that. So in respect of Transnet, there's refreshing leadership approach, and they've been interacting with business to share with us what they are planning to do, how they are doing it, and how they would want to work with business. And we feel that even though there are challenges, there is a leadership in place that we can trust and have confidence in, that we can work with to turn the situation around there, which is very critical. And it's not the same thing to suggest that things are where we would like them to be, but we certainly are seeing a governance turnaround and leadership appointments that give us a sense of confidence that things can move in the right direction, and we need to work together to ensure that they do move in the right direction. That's not the same feeling we have with regard to PRASA. We think that things are very murky and very dangerous, and the most vulnerable are actually put in a very difficult situation. So we can't quite see our way clear with regard to what's happening with regard to PRASA.
All right, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. That was Business Unity South Africa President Sipho Pityana.